Welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, the corner of the internet where whispers become headlines and rumors meet reality. Today, I'm bringing you something that has rattled the entire Turkish entertainment sphere and pushed every feed into overdrive. This is the kind of revelation that makes you stop scrolling mid-swipe and ask yourself, wait, did that really happen? Buckle up, because what has surfaced about Ozan Akbaba and Sinem Ünsal is the sort of development nobody forecasted, and yet it has arrived with the force of a thunderclap. Two of the most admired names in the industry, respected, beloved, consistently in demand, are at the center of a wave that is swallowing timelines, group chats, and primetime conversation. Before we plunge into the heart of it all, a quick reminder. If you haven't subscribed to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, now is the perfect moment. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the stories we track down with care, curiosity, and a touch of daring. Alright, deep breath. Let's step into it together. Mark this, January 14, 2026. It's one of those dates that will stick, a timestamp for the memory bank. On that morning, reports detonated across the Turkish press and rapidly rippled through international outlets. The headline, centered on Ozan Akbaba and Sinem Ünsal, landed like a spark in dry grass, and within minutes the blaze was everywhere. Shocking is the word most people reached for, but even that feels small for what followed, a storm of speculation, analysis, joy, disbelief, and 1,000 colorful reactions sprouting from every corner of the web. So what is at stake? According to the closest circles and a swarm of sources feeding the media, Ozan and Sinem, already celebrated for the warmth of their interactions whenever they cross paths on set visits, panel appearances, and brand shoots, have made a life-altering decision. And if your mind raced to the same place as mine, you're not alone. The strongest signals point to a proposal that has already happened, or the kind of pact that precedes an imminent marriage. The nuance is still foggy, the phrases carefully chosen, but the intent behind them seems clear. This is not a fleeting rumor. It's the shape of a future. Let's rewind for context. For years, the bond between Ozan Akbaba and Sinem Ünsal has been that intriguing question mark hovering just above the public conversation. They've guarded their personal lives with an admirable sense of boundaries, rarely letting their private chapters spill into the spotlight. And yet, every time they ended up in the same frame. Whether during a charity gala's backstage chat, a festival panel where their banter flowed with effortless ease, or a winter fashion campaign that paired them in a set of striking visuals, the audience felt something. A connection. A rhythm. Fans stitched those moments together into a tapestry of hope, imagining that fiction might yield to reality. There was no press conference, no grand declaration. Just chemistry, consistency, and that magnetic pull you can't help but notice. January 14 tore the curtain down. Suddenly all the probabilities people dreamed about felt painstakingly real. The idea of an engagement, or an unambiguous decision to bind their lives, sent social media into a frenzy. The reaction was instantaneous and overwhelming. X lit up. Instagram stories layered with celebratory confetti. Threads and comments flooded with disbelief turning into happiness in real time. People used their lunch breaks, their commutes, their late-night scrolling hours to trade screenshots and theories. The hashtags bearing their names shot upward until they dominated global trends, while fan edits resurface, those subtle glances, that easy laughter, that shot from a brand event where their eyes met just a second too long. And it wasn't only fans. Industry colleagues, actors, writers, directors, producers, started dropping notes that were equal parts stunned and genuinely tender. Congratulations pooled in, some public, others whispered. The entertainment world, hardened though it is by surprise after surprise, softened for this one. There's a thread running through these reports: if a ceremony is coming, it might be small, intimate, truly theirs. This fits both of them. Ozan, who has built a career on intensity and steel-edged roles, has always kept a quiet hearth in the background. Sinem, with her quicksilver smile and grounded presence, has rarely indulged in spectacle for its own sake. Friends describe them as protective of their inner circle. So the buzz suggests a guest list written in pencil, a location that doesn't scream for attention, and a promise that matters more than the flashbulbs. Of course, news this seismic is impossible to hide completely, and tiny echoes have been escaping, just enough to keep the story alive without drowning it in noise. To understand why this has landed so forcefully, consider who they are individually. Ozan is widely known for carving sharp edges into complex men, bringing a hypnotic stillness to the screen even when the scene is on fire. Behind that intensity is a well of humor and a composer's sense of timing, traits people who've worked with him speak about in hushed respect. Sinem, whose rise has felt both swift and inevitable, specializes in human warmth. She brings intelligence to tenderness and grace to conflict, so that even her silences feel spoken. When they teamed up for that chic winter campaign and later shared a stage reading for a charity night, audiences seized on the electricity. The clips became instant favorites, the half-smile, the shoulder brush, the unscripted glimmer you can't choreograph. Those moments were tucked away by fans, held as proof of an undercurrent that couldn't be faked. What conclusions can be drawn from the news? First, whatever sits between them is far stronger and more intentional than many assumed. Agreeing to an engagement, or stepping directly toward marriage, signals a shared blueprint for the years ahead. Headliners often prefer the safety of ambiguity, choosing clarity is bold. Second, their image shifts from admired individuals to a partnership that stands for steadiness. They become a reminder that affection can thrive even under a magnifying glass, that fame doesn't have to devour privacy or sincerity. For fans, that's a story that warms more than it agitates. Third, the industry dimension is huge. Viewers are already wondering, will they collaborate on a series, a film, a stage piece? Will their schedules align for a project that mirrors their real-life harmony? What stories would they tell together? These are delicious questions, and for now, they remain unanswered, bait for patience and hope. The nuts and bolts of the proposal remain cloaked. Did it happen during a quiet dinner at home, playlist running and phones off? Was it after a long day, when a laugh cracked the evening open and the words just tumbled out? Or was it a deliberate, planned gesture, something crafted with a few intimate witnesses and a photographer sworn to eternity? Nothing definitive has surfaced. What has emerged is the pattern: loyal sources who never speak out of turn are speaking softly, and there's a conspicuous lack of denial from either side. Their reps, so quick to bat away nonsense in the past, have refrained from slamming the door. Taken together, these signals form the kind of mosaic that fans and journalists recognize, a picture that's not fully colored in but whose lines are impossible to ignore. If you zoom out, you'll see this also fits a larger movement. Many high-profile pairs in recent years have chosen to pull the blinds, to let love grow in shade rather than neon. Ozan and Sinem, if this is indeed the step they're taking, look to be working from that same playbook, clear-eyed, measured, protective. Yet news of this magnitude refuses invisibility. The response has been overwhelmingly supportive, almost protective in its own right, as if the audience is collectively holding a shield around them. And the date, January 14, 2026. Sits there like a milestone planted in the road, a place to return to when we talk about how this moment felt and why it mattered. In the end, what can be said without hedging? That the story of Ozan Akbaba and Sinem Ünsal has turned a corner. The whispers have gathered into something solid enough to carry, and the idea of an engagement, or the threshold of marriage, has moved from fantasy into feasible truth. Two stars, bright on their own, have chosen to steer toward the same horizon. It's surprising, yes, but also oddly inevitable if you've been paying attention to their grace, their pace, and the respect they command. It's not just a romantic headline, it's a statement that their private lives are not a spectator sport, even as the world leans in. And it's a promise of chapters we haven't seen, in careers that will keep unfolding, perhaps even side by side in ways we can only guess. Thank you for spending this time with me and for trusting Turkish Spotlight Secrets to guide you through the fog and toward the heart of the story. I've loved unpacking this with you. Now I want to hear your voice. What do you make of this turn? Did it catch you off guard? What kind of future do you envision for Ozan Akbaba and Sinem Ünsal? from the roles they might choose to the quiet decisions they'll keep just for themselves. Drop your thoughts below, I'm reading everything. If this deep dive moved you, tap like, share it with your circle, and subscribe so you'll be first in line for the next reveal. Your support keeps this space alive and curious. Until our next chapter, stay close, stay kind, and keep your notifications on, because in this world, the next surprise is always one heartbeat away.